Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andrew Gustafson. I'm the curator of interpretation at the Johnson County Museum in Overland Park, Kansas. I also have the pleasure of serving as the president of the Heritage League of Greater Kansas City, who's bringing you this workshop today. The Heritage League tries to do at least 2 professionalization workshops each year. And we're really thrilled to have a great lineup for today's about social media and digital marketing. A couple of announcements. We are recording this panel so that we can share it out to our membership. I also wanted to make everyone aware to mark your calendars for May 19th in the evening at 5 p.m. We'll be hosting our spring mixer at the Johnson County Museum. So you'll want to mark that. That's our first in-person event since fall of 2019. So it'll be great to see everybody in person again and to gather together. Today we have 4 presenters, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves since they'll be talking so much about the work they do and projects they've participated in. But they are Susan Hawksworth. She's the director of the Smoky Hills Museum in Salina. Stephanie Elton from Blue Water Communications. Angela Pritchett, the manager of digital marketing at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art in Kansas City, Missouri. And Natalie Vondrak, the communications and outreach manager for the Watkins Museum of History in Lawrence, Kansas. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Susan.
Okay, and is it okay if I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I will attempt to do that now. Well, my computer will cooperate.
There you go.
But I want to be there. There. Is that showing the PowerPoint? All right, great. As he said, I'm Susan Hawksworth. I'm the director at the Smoky Hill Museum. My talk is a little bit more on just small museum marketing in general, but does delve into social media marketing as well. For smaller museums, as so many of us are, it can be difficult to know where to devote our marketing resources, and small museums are often strapped for cash and for just a second, let me redo something. There we go. And the staff is often wearing 20 or more different hats, so it can be a real mystery where to even begin. So to help out smaller museums and selfishly my own museum, I had the opportunity to learn about small scale research through the Museum as Progress community. For a couple of years now, I've been trying to figure out how to best spend my marketing dollars, but didn't really know where to start because I use a mixed bag of approach to marketing. It's often hard to tell exactly what it is that actually brings people into the galleries or to attend our programs. And as a free museum, we have limited opportunity to pull our visitors. We do ask visitors how they hear about us when they enter the gallery, but their answers are often very generic, such as they heard about us on the internet. In addition, what analytics I do collect don't mean a whole lot because I have nothing to compare them to. So that's where my small scale research project on small museum marketing comes in. To help figure out where to spend my marketing budget, I chose to send out a survey. And in December of 2021 through mid-January 2022, I sent out a survey to museum industry participants to complete this. I sent this out for them to complete. The survey went out through several sources, including the Museum as Progress community, my state museum association, and the AAM Museum Junction Open Forum. A total of 100 responses were received. Now, the lessons I wanted to learn from this survey include what marketing channels are being used the most, what marketing channels seem to work the best, and how others track or measure their marketing results. And of those 100 responses, 36 were from the Mountain Plains Museum Association region, and 13 were from the Association of Midwest Museums. All regional museum associations did have representatives, as you can see, and there were even 10 museums outside the US, and those included representatives from the United Kingdom, Italy, India, Canada, and New Zealand. Now, since the survey was intended for small museums, but there is no real definition of what makes a small museum, that was left up to the respondents. Therefore, I did ask for staff size and budget. As far as staff size, it varied from all volunteer organizations to one organization of 60 to 75 staff members. The majority of the staffs were in the 2 to 9 range. It should be noted that part-time and full-time was not asked. So some of those could be part, some could be full. As far as budget size, that also varied from museums with budgets under $10,000 to museums with budgets over $1 million. Most of those who answered the organizational budget question are in the $250,000 level or above. Of those that were under $10,000, more than half of those were under $3,500, and 2 said that they have 0 operating budget. There were 18 who did not know their budgets and 6 organizations that didn't answer that particular question. It should be noted that the person who responded to these weren't always those privy to budgeting dollars. When looking at the marketing budget, it's interesting to see, though, that the majority of advertising budgets are from $0 to $10,000, especially given that over 40 organizations had budgets over $250,000, and 14 of those were over $500,000. So they, even though they had fairly large budgets, the majority is 10,000 or less. For what marketing channels were used, overall, their responses were grouped into 22 categories. Just leave it at the door. Sorry, a little interruption. Where was I? There were 22 different categories were said to be used. All but one organization reported using free social media. And 84% relied on print advertising. Paid social media at 61 respondents, direct mail at 49 respondents, and radio at 47 round out the top 5 marketing channels. The remaining channels, since it's so hard to see, in order are e-ads, e-marketing or email marketing, which also includes e-newsletters, TV, giveaways, flyers and signs, rack cards, print newsletters, influencers, the local CVB or Chamber of Commerce, local hotels, referrals, media releases, events, online calendars, marketing partners, websites, and ads in materials of other partner organizations. So quite a range. It is interesting to note that the differences in the number of marketing channels used by the level of marketing budget. The larger the budget, the fewer marketing channels seem to be used or reported being used. With budgets under $10,000, they used up to 20 marketing channels, and those over $10,000 using only about 8 to 10 channels. Those who did not answer the marketing budget question or answered 0 reported using 5 marketing channels. Now, of course, the higher number of respondents in the budgets under 10,000 could explain why there's such a broad use of marketing channels. As you may recall, the first insight I wanted to learn from this survey was what marketing channels are being used most. So while there were 22 different marketing channels used, only 13 channels were reported as being used most, with free social media being relied upon at more than twice that of print, the next channel used. Interestingly, 84% reported using print marketing, but only 42% say print is one of their most used channels. There were similar drop-offs for paid social media, direct mail, radio, and e-ads. Email marketing, on the other hand, held up quite well. Of the 17 museums who reported using that channel, 11 of those used that channel the most. And here is a breakdown of the most used channels by the MPMA and AAM regions. As you can see, the top 4 responses in both regions are the same, which are free social media, print, direct mail, and paid social media. This varies just slightly from overall survey answers, where paid social media placed just slightly above direct mail. Besides marketing channels used the most, I was interested in learning what marketing channels seem to work the best. As you can see, social marketing, again, outweighs the other channels in what works best. 19 responded that they were not sure of what works best. And interestingly, word of mouth made the list of 10 responses. But we all know that that's not an easily used marketing channel. If we go back and take a closer look to compare what channels were used and what works best, we find something surprising. In red are the channels used most, or channels used. The blue is channels used most, and the brown is what marketing channels work the best. As you can see, the top 3 used are the highest reported best used channels, which are social free, print, and social paid. Although if we look at the percentages of what channels used versus what works best, we see a different picture. Out of the 99 respondents who said that they use free social media, only 46% report social media marketing strategies work best. Whereas the social paid, 55% of those say that paid social media works best. Another surprising finding is that the 84% reported using print marketing, but only 28.5% thought the print worked best for them. Now, if we look at newsletters, only 1 respondent reported actually using newsletters, but percentage-wise, it's the best at 400%. 4 people said it worked the best. Email marketing too comes in with 88% of those who use it saying it works the best. Flyers and signs come in at 57%, but it should be noted that the sample size of these marketing channels is small, although they do show a very good return for those who use them. And it should be noted that those channels, however, may not be the best for reaching out to new audiences. It was hoped to find some insight into the question, how are others tracking or measuring their marketing results? But when looking at the responses, there is still quite a bit of uncertainty because of the following. 18 respondents do not track or measure results, often citing time as a factor, and 5 respondents were unsure of how to even track results. Of the reported ways to track or measure results, analytics and social engagement are the top 2 responses. But one has to wonder if there is a bias in using these marketing channels due to the ease of measuring the social media, or this, measuring that social media. And then, do other channels perform better but are not known to because it is harder to measure the effectiveness of those channels? On how respondents define success, there were several ways, but the most cited was an increase in visitation, in attendance, and ticket sales. Revenue via membership, donations, or sponsorship was the following most listed definition for success. But you can also see engagement on social media and awareness of organization or the brand are also the round out that top 4. So what lessons did I actually learn from the survey? For those to answer what marketing channels are used the most, there were a total of 13 listed. The top 5 were free social media at 93, print at 42 responses, paid social media with 28 responses, direct mail with 22, and radio with 16 responses. For what marketing channels seem to work best, social media, both free and paid, are reported to work the best, getting 39% of the responses. Print came in next at 12% of responses, and the third highest response was not sure at 9%. Although it should be noted, newsletters, emails, and flyers or signs actually had the best return for those few who did use those channels. And then how are others tracking or measuring their marketing results? Like I said earlier, 18 respondents did not even track the results, with 5 being unsure of how to. Of the reported ways to track and measure marketing results, one must wonder if there's a bias in reporting the best performing marketing channel, which is social media, due to the ease of measuring those analytics. And the question is still there, do other channels perform better, but are not known to because it's harder to measure the effectiveness of those channels? I did ask for other comments in the survey, and here are a few from some of the respondents that I found interesting. From someone who was not sure of their budget, creating and scheduling social media ads and posts take far too much time away from other more efficient and effective methods of advertising, but it is expected by the public. Worse, we all have to share the responsibility, so we struggle with consistency and timing, but for some reason, leadership doesn't think we need a dedicated marketing or social media specialist. It seems counterproductive and a poor use of staff skill sets to expect marketing to be effective when it is run by non-marketers who have many other skills that are sidelined while they struggle to learn and practice marketing. Another comment from someone in the up to $10,000 marketing budget. We have paid for special consulting sessions, but to learn about where we should direct our marketing dollars, and it's never been very helpful. It seems impossible to tell where we should be spending our money, but marketing is clearly a huge issue for us because few people in the city, which is Washington, D.C., have heard of us. Another comment was, we have multiple staff members managing marketing, but brand consistency has been difficult for us to maintain. And this from who most of us would say was not a small museum, but I thought their comment was very interesting, was in case of no marketing team, train existing staff in marketing skills. They believe in multiple skilling at small museums who cannot afford a marketing team. And word of mouth is still an effective marketing strategy. And with that, I will stop for questions.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that. It was very interesting to see the way those answers played out and what people found to be the most effective means of marketing. Take note of Susan's contact information. I'll ask all the presenters to put their contact information in the chat at the end so that we can be able to reach out to them if you have questions about their presentations. If it's okay, if people don't have questions right yet, we'll hold questions for the end and we'll go ahead and move on to our next presenter, who is Stephanie Elton with Blue Water Communications.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Let me pull up my presentation. Fingers crossed that this works. Let's see here. Okay. All right, and then let's see. All right, there we go. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for having me today. As Andrew said, my name is Stephanie Elton. I work at Blue Water Communications, which is a PR firm that specializes in museums, architecture, and destinations. My career, though, I have worked at libraries and art museums and record labels. With about 8 years I spent working at the Toledo Museum of Art here in Toledo, Ohio, in the marketing communications department. My background is in digital marketing and social media. So I'm happy to talk with you all today about this very important, but oftentimes overwhelming idea of social media marketing and social media strategy. A bit more about Blue Water. I just want to share a quick list of some of our current and past clients. So we've worked with museums of all shapes and sizes, from the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg to TMA, to the Fairleigh Museum of Art in the University of Virginia. We've worked with botanical gardens, such as the Selby Garden in Sarasota, the Taft Museum of Art in Cincinnati. So, our client list has run the gamut of large museums with big budgets to smaller, more regional, and more focused museums, such as many that you are a part of currently. So my presentation, I'm just going to go over some guidelines, some best practices when it comes to developing a social media strategy, whether this is new to you or something that you have dabbled in or you're active in the space. It's always good to kind of have some guiding principles when it comes to a social media strategy. And whether you're a small museum, a large museum, it is an area where there's often very few resources available, but there's a considerable amount of importance put onto it. So my hope today, after our main presentation, is you have some tips and tricks that can help you, activate the space for your institutions. To start with, first is setting us those social media goals. And I call that specifically realistic goals. We can often hear that I've been told that I need to go viral. Well, what does that mean? My notes real quick. There we are. Sorry about that. I guess the question then really is just to ask yourself, what do you want from social media? And examples could just be as simple as increase awareness of your institution or increase community engagement. You want to generate more traffic to your website, to specific areas of your website. You can use social media as a lead generator when it comes to donations or for membership. Goals really just hold you accountable, and you don't need a lot of them. Maybe just one goal. That's totally okay. It's again setting realistic and manageable expectations in this space. Key takeaway is just identify goals that make sense for your institution. Your resources, what other demands are being made, on your responsibility list. So just being realistic about what you can accomplish in social media. Next up is research. So, Susan's presentation talked about data, and there's so much out there and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So before you get started, it's important to understand who you're wanting to reach and understanding, remembering that different platforms attract different audiences. I think this point is really important to share, is that you don't have to be, nor should you be, on every social media platform. That does not make sense. That is, you don't want to spread yourself too thin in that space. Each platform provides, a variety of data on who uses their platform, so you can align that with who you're trying to reach, and your audience as well. Age, gender identity, other demographics can help guide you to which platforms to focus on, and maybe it's just one or two. Again, don't stretch yourself too thin. Be realistic about your goals and the time you have, and really focus in on what platforms that make the most sense for your institution. really, focus on where your core audience is currently active. It's a great way to be efficient with social media, with your time. Measurement and metrics. For this, it's important that your social media strategy, that it is data driven to a certain extent, but you're probably asking yourself, like, what do I track and measure? Because there is a plethora of numbers out there. It's a great question to ask yourself. Simple enough, just focus on the social media metrics that matter. Jump ahead to the key takeaway for this section. Align your most important metrics with your social media goals. So, and this doesn't have to be a like a really detailed report. Maybe it's just one particular metric that you're going to track over time. For example, if you're focusing on increasing your awareness, maybe the most important metric for you to track is the reach of the content that you publish. That shows you how much of your content is appearing in other feeds. If generating traffic to your website is what your goal is with social media, keeping track of and measuring clicks on the links that you post, or using Google Analytics to kind of track that traffic between social media and to your website. We hear the word engagement a lot with social media. That's kind of between the word content and engagement, you hear those two words a lot. For engagement, it's really like a simple formula of the total number of interactions with your content divided by the impressions. That'll give you a percentage, and you can track that percentage over time. So again, it can be very overwhelming, but staying focused, knowing what your goals are, who you're trying to reach, and identifying a key metric to track that's in alignment of your social media goal will help kind of keep things in track and keep your strategy accountable. So this is the fun part, and also for some people very intimidating. I know I would find it, because there's this urgency to like constantly create things, constantly publish, constantly post, and that's not necessarily the case. So your goals, your audience, the platforms that you've decided to focus on, those will give you a good idea of what to publish. Along with that, I would like to introduce you to a concept that came in very handy for me at my time at the Toledo Museum of Art, and something that I continue to counsel clients on today, is the idea of content or brand pillars. These are like 3 to 5 themes. You could have 2, you could have 4, but they help categorize your contents. So that if at any time someone looks at your Instagram grid, or heads over to your your Facebook page, and they scroll through, they get a feel of what your institution is like, what they can expect, almost like it's a digital visit in a way to your museum. These content pillars encourage consistency and kind of keep things on track for you. It helps your content feel like it's actually you in a way. At TMA, we kept it very simple. We had 4 pillars, and it was museum people, the collection, the museum campus, and then we had like a catch-all for like programs / products. So we were talking about the people who worked there and visitors. We were talking about the collection in fun and unique ways. The campus, showing our buildings and how people use and experience that. And then that more promotional pillar of, products and programs was there, but it was, a minor pillar. So, with your content, it's important to be timely and to be authentic. It should feel like it's coming from you. And sticking to those content pillars will help keep things on track, kind of keep you focused as well. So this was my favorite part about working in social media, is really building that online community. And this comes over time. So once you publish your content, like what happens next? It's being present and talking to your audience. That is the social part of social media. It's very easy to kind of get caught up in just putting things out there and letting them go, but you're going to get feedback, you're going to get comments, which provide really great insight into how people view your institution, what they like about your institution, what they don't like about it, what they would like to see more of. there's also like two sides to this as well. There's the content that you're putting out there that you're publishing and creating, which is great. And then there's the reverse. There is the, you're monitoring for and responding to, content created by your visitors, that user generated content. That gives you insight into how visitors feel about your institution, like I said before, how they think about your institution. It's also a great way to kind of identify, potential collaborations going forward if you have the capacity to do some influencer engagement, or get feedback on, exhibitions or programs and things like that. I mentioned timeliness before. That's really key in this building a community aspect. I know at TMA, and I'm sure those of you who do keep an eye on social media for your museums, people will ask you questions. Social media is a customer service tool. So being prepared to answer questions, to respond to those things, that is also a key part of this building community piece. So key takeaway from this part of building a strategy is being present and responsive to your online audience. Social media can be a 24/7 thing, but it's important to like set realistic expectations again, and knowing that you should not be like, checking things at 11 p.m. at night, like setting those boundaries. A lot of the platforms give you tools to like set auto messages in case someone does message you directly, which come in really handy with, you can guide them to another way to contact them, whether it's an email form or the phone number, or remind them like, this page is monitored from like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, things like that. So this is kind of ultimately what you're doing with your social media strategy. You are building this online community. I mentioned, having a data-driven strategy. After you've done all this work, you've identified your key social media goal. You know what metric you're going to track. You know the audiences you're trying to reach and the platforms you're going to use. You've been creating and publishing content. You have been engaging with people who are, talking about your museum. They are liking your stuff. They're creating their own content inspired by your museum. Oh, that's great, but it's important to remember that, social media strategy isn't etched in stone. It should adapt and change over time based on the insights that you're getting in real time and over time by using social media. It's easy to, analysis paralysis is a real thing. I'm guilty of that. It's happened to me. You get caught up in stuff, right? But taking the time to look at how things are performing over time, you start to see trends. Like you see, for example, like if a particular type of content isn't performing like you thought it would, it's okay to stop doing that, or make changes to it and trying it again. Experimenting is really, really fun thing to do here in social media. Is there a particular content pillar that you have that just, every time you post something that falls within that category, it is like performing like crazy? So what do you do with that information? Take a look and see, is there a common, I lost my place real quick here. Is there a trend that's happening? Is it like a video thing? Is it a certain type of photography? Or is it like the tone of those posts, just kind of taking a deeper dive. And then, another thing that's happened that you can observe over time is there been a drop in engagement? That's worth exploring as well. Has there been a change in the audience demographics for that platform? Facebook has changed over time as to who uses it. You can start to see that with other platforms as well. So maybe that's what's happening. Or, has there been a change in the algorithm on those platforms? So those are, you're going to start to see things over time. And again, adapting your social strategy in response to that, something that you should do over time. I'm often asked, well, how often do I need to report on this stuff? How often do I need to like do these deep dives? And that's really up to you. You want to give your strategy time to like go into effect, like just to give it, to perform, before you change things too soon. So give yourself like the space to like try things, see how they do. And maybe it's, reporting every few months or so on how things are going. And, maybe it's changing your strategy once a year. It doesn't have to be this constant turnover of things, just try things out, see how it goes, and make adjustments from there. Key takeaway, just be diligent with your data, keep an eye on things, do those like deeper reports, at a frequency that makes sense, that you're able to do, being again realistic with your time and your resources, and then adapting your strategy accordingly. Don't be afraid to change things. That's one of the beauties of social media, is that you get data that helps you identify things to change, things to continue, and it happens every time you publish something. So just to recap, with building a social media strategy, whether, like I said, this is new space for you, something that you've been able to do in stops and starts, or something that you do frequently, it's always a good reminder just to kind of touch base, level set, and see where things are going. So set realistic social media goals, or just a goal. One goal is totally fine. Research is really important, from who you want to reach to where they are active, and focusing on those specific platforms. Measurements and metrics, those things should align with your goal. Make sure that you're tracking things that will show over time whether you're reaching that goal or not. When it comes to the content piece, have fun, create, curate, experiment, try new things. Those content pillars, sticking with them will really help set some guidelines to keep things on track. Remember that ultimately what you're trying to do is build an online community of brand ambassadors, fans of your museum, those loyal people who not only visit you in person, but look to you online as well. And then after you do all that work, just making sure that you're analyzing your efforts and adapting your social media strategy as needed. The frequency of the analysis can happen, as you have time. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's twice a year, but always, just making sure that you're keeping an eye on that data and making adjustments from there. So that was a lot, I know, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. My contact information is down below, but I'll also put it in the chat in case you want to follow up via email. I'm happy to answer any questions you have then or now or at the end of the workshop. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie. I have to say that content pillars so I'm not from marketing at all, and I handle largely the social media for the Johnson County Museum, and having the content pillars is a great idea. I think often for us, the goal is to have content to make sure we are continuing to post. And so being intentional about what we're doing and actually having a deeper goal is something that we need to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead.
So much.
No,
I was yeah, no, those content pillars really came in very handy for us. I mean, TMA is a larger institution, but even then, there's so many things, so many demands being put, like social media can be the answer to the thing. Like, well, that's actually not the case, going back to what your goal is, and those content pillars can really help keep things on track and gives you the power and way to say no to an idea. Not that an idea is not, you want to hear, you want feedback, you want ideas, but like, if it doesn't fit, we shouldn't do it. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Angela, you're up. Let me pin you to the top here so everyone can see you. There we go.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Oops.
Yes.
Thank you. And can you see my screen? Thank you. And, it's great to be with all of you this morning. And I am feeling a lot of affinity to my other speakers because I was born in Salina. I actually went to KU and spent quite a bit of time at Watkins, in addition to the Spencer Museum there. So I just am loving what I'm hearing from everybody so far. I am the digital manager of digital marketing at the museum, and here's our contact information that you can look for us on the 3 major platforms I'll be talking about this morning. A little bit about me. Okay, I'm not advancing here. Hang on just a second. All right, there, a little bit about me. I joined the marketing department in 2011. This is actually a picture that was taken at a Plaza Art Fair a few years ago. And, you know, a little bit of history about me and the museum. I actually volunteered in Kirkwood Hall in the 80s when I first moved to Kansas City after graduating from KU. I served as the vice president for Social Media Club of Kansas City a few years ago. And I am currently managing the museum's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I've taken on Facebook recently so that we could allow one of our other marketing department staff to start doing paid advertising. So she does our paid social. Here's everything that I'm doing right now. When someone was mentioning how the many different hats we're wearing, this gives you an idea. But what I love about my tasks is that it is almost a complete circle. I have a very nice rhythm to my month, my quarter. I manage our calendar in terms of putting the content on it. I don't set up events. That's done through somebody else. But then I know what to promote on social media because I've just put it on our calendar. As I said, the 3 platforms that I am currently managing, we do a little bit of lurking on TikTok. I totally agree with Stephanie. Don't take on a platform that you don't have the capacity or the knowledge on how to do it. It's certainly something that we wanted to claim our account before someone else did. And we've got a whole separate team of teens who are volunteers who do a lot of social media on their own platforms. And so I thought we'll just let them do that. I do a certain amount of audience evaluation using, of course, our social media. And then through the calendar and our CRM, I'm able to look at reports to see when people are coming to the museum, how early they're getting tickets, things like that. And then through that, I'm able to recommend digital strategy approaches for exhibitions and projects. And when I was hired, I was actually hired to do our, in 2011, I was hired to do our calendar, which is currently not going out. I'm hoping it will be back again soon, but it's now called Art Scene and it's a bi-monthly. And then some of the things that are keeping me busy right now, sorry, I've got everybody in the way, but we have 5 exhibitions we're getting ready to go out with, 2 in May. I just got off a staff call actually where we were talking about Jim Dow, a photographer and artist that exhibition will open May 7th. And it's always fun to have a living artist who is the focus of an exhibition because he's going to come in for a couple of talks, one in June and one in September. So there's my little plug for that. And then of course we have a featured exhibition, Art Deco, that's opening in July. So a lot of extra emphasis and all hands on deck to get something like that ready to go. And then our Shuttle Cork event, this is our fundraiser that has not happened since 2019. And so that is this weekend, and that has taken a lot of effort on everybody's part. We have a huge tent up on the north side of the museum right now where part of our festivities happen. So everybody pray for us that we will not have something blow it down tonight or that it gets totally rained on so badly tomorrow night. And then our art course mini golf is back this year and our summer session is about to start right around Memorial Day. So I'm always pushing people to buy tickets and support the museum. And you'll hear it here today. Our art classes for adults are coming back this summer, not for kids quite yet, but that is something we're getting ready to announce too. And then looking ahead, because of my responsibilities of putting things on the calendar, I'm always about 4 to 6 months out ahead of everybody else on our team and looking for things and trying to figure out where we need to revise and pivot and evolve. So this is a list of philosophies. It's not quite pillar-ish, but it's something that one of my teammates put together when I had joined the museum, a woman named Jody Olson-Kidney, who is now at the Johnson County Library. But this really helped us to see, you know, when we had everybody else from the museum, other departments coming at us and saying, can't that go on social media? We were like, we need to say no, but we need to know why we're saying no to these people. So we feel that social media is best for helping our engagers and help engage our followers with content. We want to inspire and truly delight people. And we don't expect every piece of art to be something. I mean, we have, you know, people who are always going to put that comment on a post that say, I could have made that, my kid could have made that, I don't get it, which is fine. That is completely what art is all about, inspiring someone to have a dialogue about it. But our greatest resource for what we put on social media is truly the art. We have over 40,000 objects in our collection. So we have a lot of content to work with. And then our goal is not to make social media fit our messages, but it is really to make those messages work for the social media platforms that we're on and to serve the audiences that we know are, as Stephanie was pointing out, that are active on it. And then truly, we have to tell this to people on almost a daily basis internally. We have to remind everybody that social media is not the plan. It is part of a comprehensive marketing plan, not the only thing that we're using. It's just one tool. And then something that I've added over the years is that, especially being in Kansas City, I feel like we need to be good neighbors for each other. I retweet other museums' content. I want to make sure that people who are coming to the museum, maybe from out of town, know that Kansas City is a great place to visit. So yes, there's First Friday's going on this weekend, but maybe you want to stop by here first or after, and the Kemper's nearby. So, make a night of it, make a weekend of it, and help each other as much as we can. Be kind. So one of the things that is etched on our building that I often, will see people post not only on social, but just remind us that it's there, is this quote: "Art still has truth, take refuge there." And it was so true in the 30s. Our museum came together during the Great Depression. And I think that when it opened in 1933, it brought a lot of beauty and gave an opportunity for people to walk the halls and just sort of forget about the troubles in their lives. And here we are in 2022, and we're offering that again. And it just seems to be timeless. There's always going to be some struggle, whether it's personal, global, medical, health related. So we're happy that people are coming back to the museum now. We have no shortage of content. As I said, we have, this is from an exhibition that was loaned to us a couple years ago that was about Napoleon. So we have loaned exhibitions, we have festivals that are starting back up again. Our Passport to India Festival was just this past weekend, partly in person, partly virtual, doing a little bit of hybrid for a while. And then we have classes, of course. We're really going to be happy to have kids back. We've done a lot of virtual classes for them so far. We've got our own collection, a lot of native local artists that people are very excited about. Any weekend, you can come in and do something in our, it's a family free weekend activity that's happening in our block lobby. And then of course, we try to do a lot of activities that bring in new art lovers. This is from a Third Thursday, which we aren't doing right now. I'm not sure when it might be back, but I still get questions about it, even though we haven't done one since February of 2020. But what we started to look at, and one of the things I'm going to talk about this morning is a campaign that Andrew, I know, has seen. If any of you else have seen me talk about our Art and Soul campaign, I hope you hear something new about it this morning. But we wanted to look at who our members are, and that also helped inform who our social audiences are. So they're very much our friends of art people. When we started to look at the history of our Friends of Art, it actually started a year after the museum opened in 1934. In 1937, we had 201 members, and one of the major perks was getting free admission. That's still true, but now it's we have free admission for everybody. So we started to look at why would people want to be members of an organization that they can come to for free. So that was really what propelled us into rebranding our Friends of Art. And at the time in 2017, when we started to look at that, we had 17,000 members total. About 80% of them are in the middle group, ranging from single family, singles to families to retired people. And then we have a lot of families who come on a regular basis, and we really encourage that. We want people to know that kids are definitely welcome. We want to instill a sense of art loving at an early age. And our Friends of Art group is roughly ages from 21 to 35. That takes up about 15% of our members. And then there's another 5% of Society of Fellows, and they're our top level of not only members, but also donors. I wanted to share, as Stephanie was talking about, curating and creating, and I was really loving Susan's presentation too, because I know there's no time to do stuff like this, but it really helps if you have a schedule. So every month we put together a schedule. This was just one line from our April schedule on what we were going to do on Earth Day. So you can see there's the date, the topic, what department's going to be looking at this, because we picked a photograph from our collection, our Twitter text, our Facebook text, and then the item number is what the accession number is of that object in our collection, in case we needed to look it up really quickly. So how we work this is about 3 weeks out before that month it's going to start. We send a whole schedule in Excel to our curatorial team, and we have them look at it and say, here's your chance to say, no, don't use that picture, or love that object that you've chosen, but your text is completely wrong. And then they have about a week to look at it. This is very time intensive. I know it. I know. I know nobody really wants to hear that this is the effort that you need to put in, but it really helps, because then we know exactly what we're going to post. I can schedule this in advance. I don't have Hootsuite. I don't use Later. I am only using the organic mechanisms within each platform, and those are working fine for us. But what I love about this is that it not only allows us to be a little spontaneous. If something comes up, we could say, ooh, hold that content today. It's evergreen, and we can use it on another day, and then we can do something because the Royals won, or there's something fun that's happening. Bernie's mittens, came up, and we just held all of our content for, while we did a great photograph of Bernie in our glass labyrinth, and it went over so big that I just let it roll and let people enjoy it. So this is what it looks like in planning. This is what it looks like when it's posted, and I shared the screen grab from our Twitter, so you could see 2,200 impressions is not bad. 10 likes is about average for us these days. 4 retweets, and then this is what it looks like when I put it into reporting. Got to grab every number you want at that time. In Twitter and in Facebook, you can download. So you can download the file in a CVS and an Excel sheet. If you don't have time to analyze it and put it into a nice format to share with everybody, just download it so that you have it, so that when you're ready to do that quarterly report or twice a year, it's there. Just name it and put it in a folder somewhere so you know it. I need to have this information ready after we do exhibitions, because every department has to report out. So I like doing it on a monthly basis so that I know, ooh, I can go in and grab that right now. Somebody wants to know. And as you can see, this is our Facebook post. So I love seeing the engagements. To me, that share number is really important. Sometimes we don't get a lot of comments, but we'll see that people are sharing it out. And so that's just a wonderful thing to know, that people loved it that much that they were going to send it to their friends. So this is not 4 pillars, as you can see. And it was just a way for me to get to see how we were spending our time. And I really had to put this together for myself, because I knew art was key, but I needed to know how much of that. So you can see that percentage there. These are from our Instagram from 2020. I'm still in the process of analyzing our 2021. So I called up this pie chart from a couple of years ago, and I actually shared this in a staff meeting. Excuse me, so that I could show that, yes, everybody across the museum is getting a little bit of mention on social media. I needed to prove a point that membership, you see, you are getting mentioned, and about 10% of our content is related to please join, here's a member perk, things like that. Stephanie also mentioned that user-generated content. 9% is about what we share on any given on Instagram, because people just get such a kick out of it and seeing themselves. I will insert a comment here. If you do user-generated content, please ask the person permission first, because the last thing you want is someone saying, hey, you just stole my photo. So we always add a comment and ask for permission. Stephanie is saying yes, and make sure that they respond. If I don't get a response, I don't share it. And we always give credit. We always put the name, exactly what the caption was that somebody used originally. So you can see all the other things that we have posted about on here. And in 2020, we created over 500 pieces of content for Instagram. That includes stories and posts, and reels weren't around at that point, but that helped generate over 6 million impressions. I mean, I got to know this stuff so I know if I'm moving the needle in any way. And so it was good to do this so that I could say, it did better than 2019. I hope 2021 is going to do better than 2020. So we'll see. And one of the key things for us is directing traffic. So that was one of the things that I pulled out to say, yes, we sent almost 5,000 clicks to our website. I need to get over to my other screen. So our membership rebrand, I'm going to make this a shorter presentation than what Andrew has seen, but as I was talking about in 2017, we started to look at our membership and why people were maybe joining and then not renewing, and how we could change that, how people were thinking about what their membership means at the museum. And so we worked with a marketing firm. I don't know if any of you know Rob Flores, but he has a firm named Puente Marketing, and he took focus group notes and survey notes that we had, responses, and we just sent it all to him, and he worked with a writer, and he created really what I've called a love letter to our members. And so from that came the term, "You're our art and soul." And what we wanted to know is, why would people want to be members, as I mentioned before, when admission is free? So what we heard is members didn't know how their support helped the museum. And that was just heart-wrenching for us to hear, because we had hoped that they knew all along that their support was very key. We're a nonprofit. We don't get money from the city. We don't get money from the state. You know, we have grants that we have applied for, of course, but most of our support comes from private, and it's member driven. So one of the things that we heard from people is that community impact was so much more important to them than the perks. And then we needed to make people realize your membership is actually giving back. You are being charitable by being a member. And then internally, we realized we had to tell everybody across the museum that they needed to start talking about memberships differently. So one part of this manifesto, or the love letter that they wrote, is here. And it's pretty long. It's, you know, a page and a half, but I wanted to pull some of it out so you could read it. Here in art, your hometown lives one of the greatest art collections in the world, one that has inspired generations, that has been the center of art and culture for almost a century, the Nelson Atkins, the art and soul of Kansas City. And so we took people back to some of the things maybe that they experienced as a child, coming on a field trip, coming with your family, and it creates memories, and you know, maybe those last a lifetime, and it really is part of what it means to call Kansas City home. And now, as a member, you are the most important part of our museum family, and we want you to help. We want you to know that you help us thrive and inspire a lot of generations in Kansas City. So that long content, we boiled it down. Members are the art and soul. Come thrive and inspire with us. It became sort of this lockup that we would use in a lot of different places. And by the way, I got to do a shout out for the photography that you're seeing in this. We have a media services department. I know that's crushing to anybody who maybe doesn't have that at their organization, but if you have someone who's really good with the camera, bank some photos so that you can use them for things like this. This was a page from a welcome booklet that was actually sent out to anybody who became a member. And so we wanted to drive home that impact a little bit more with this infographic and show people how, you know, we have at that time over 560,000 annual visitors, and the impact that it has across, you know, your help has across not only the region, but also our city and, our state and globally, and how, you know, we're impacting a lot of people's lives. So this was the rollout that we did. We had a great video that really came together from a lot of clips that our media services team had taken over the years, and then we had a few things that we added in. But just to show you some of the, you know, analytics that you can pull from Facebook. It was interesting to us. We didn't have a lot of click-throughs. 17 is a nice number, but we had a lot of people clicking to play this, and some great reactions. It was wonderful to see all the reactions and people, you know, commenting on it. And so what we really want, and I have preached this to a lot of people, is that yes, social media is for you to talk about your organization, but what you really want is for other people to talk about you. So as Stephanie was saying, watch that content that is being posted. Maybe you're being tagged, maybe your hashtag. We created this hashtag Art and Soul KC specifically for this campaign, but watch it so that you can thank people, so that you can share this to your channels. And just know that there's some successes out there, because people are actually really jazzed about your campaign. And then this was a really eye-opening comparison for me, because we always on exhibition days, we have a preview for our members. And so this was a specific day in October 2017, where I was able to say, come today, our members are getting a special preview, members see it first, see it free. 1,900 impressions is pretty good. We had 12 likes, 10 clicks, but with the new campaign, just a random Sunday, we were saying, hey, we're open 10 to 5, admission is always free. Thanks to the support for our museum members, our hashtag Art and Soul KC. And there's a link for people to go and see what our current exhibitions is. So you can see we had 4 times the engagement, 3 times the impressions, all those profile clicks for people to go and see, what else is happening at the museum. So it was just eye-opening to know between a specific day where people could come and see an exhibition, but here they could actually just come on any random Sunday. I was blown away how effective this was. One of the things that I also wanted to share a little bit of is a study that has come out from LaPlaca Cohen and Slover Lynette, and we participated in it. Some of you on this Zoom call may have actually participated in it too, but it was a national online survey of audiences' behaviors, their attitudes, the motivations, and the barriers that they were seeing. So you can look this up, and if anybody wants to, I can in the chat probably add the link to it, but it was very enlightening. And so it was 532 cultural organizations. This was actually wave 2 from April 5 to the 30th that they fielded it. And then they just came out with their key findings in March. I think sometime this summer, they're going to actually have a more expanded presentation of it. So one of the key questions that we've all been dying to know is, compared to your life before the pandemic, how are you feeling these days? I hope nobody on this call feels offended to know that how many people are feeling disconnected. It's okay. We're all hearing about mental health issues right now to admit, I'm more sad, I'm depressed, I'm feeling anxious, and some people are even feeling angrier. So having that information helped us put together things that we wanted to know we were okay to put on social. The next question, what kinds of things do you want more of in your life? Not surprised. 54% of people said, I want more fun. I want calm. I want adventure. I want connection with others. People are tired of being isolated, and humor. So we were able to really respond to that and talk about some of our favorite things in our collection and get a little more chatty. Let's talk armor is a little funnier than we would usually go, and our curators were okay with that. But you can see our post insights. We had about 10 to 11,000 impressions is good. So seeing something double on that for something that's been in our collection for years and that people walk by every time they visit, it was great. We had 60 shares, 56 comments, really good engagement. Another one, knowing that people wanted to have connections with others, we asked for their help. People like to help us. They like to help other organizations. And so we said, hey, once again, USA Today has got the 10 best free museums out there. Would you please vote for us? And so 100 website taps. It wasn't to our website, it was to USA Today, but it was worthwhile. We did not come out on top. We were in the top 3 of the 10 best free museums this year, but it was just nice to see people, a lot of those 45 comments were other people tagging their friends and saying, hey, vote for the museum. So that was wonderful. The 655 profile visits, people were going back to our grid to see what else was there and liking and commenting on other things. And the 332 shares are awesome. One of the next questions that they had is, what did you get out of doing online arts or culture activities? I'm sure a lot of us on the call were pivoting and trying to figure out what we could do. So did people like it? Yeah, they did. They gained fun. They learned something new. There was that connection with others again. They broadened their perspective, and we hoped a lot of people relaxed through some of the things that we offered. So one of the things that we did is our membership came up with this really fun virtual whodunit that was held in May. And it was also a recruitment tool. We sold 250 tickets and 15 tickets. And of those, we said it was actually cheaper to buy a ticket if you were a member. So we got 43 members out of it. And 90% of the people said that they would attend another virtual event. Podcasts. I don't know if anybody is actually doing a podcast. We are very late to this game. We are a bad adopter, you could say, because it just finally took us till 2022 to do this. And so we're very glad. This is a very small podcast. It's only a 5-part, but we worked with Glenn North. And so again, a lesson in reaching out to other people in your community. We let him choose who he was going to interview on the podcast. And we were just astounded. Those impressions are amazing. The link clicks of 41, very pleased about that. And then YouTube, this is one of those areas, if you ask me, what are you guys trying to do to grow? We're trying to grow our YouTube because we've got almost 2,800 YouTube subscribers, but it could be much bigger and we don't fully utilize it to the extent that we could. But very excited to see 426 views on this video. We do a little snippet. This was just a minute-long trailer for our recent photography exhibition that just closed on Monday. But the nice thing was that when our media services created this for us, we said, make this evergreen. I used this at the beginning of our exhibition. I used it throughout, and then I used it this week when it was closing. Talking about evergreen content, this was a really wonderful video that I did with our conservation team, and they clean the shuttlecocks. I've never seen anybody sad to hear about what we're doing with the shuttlecocks. We have 4 of them around the museum. And so the nice thing is that this is a team in our conservation department that doesn't always get to be highlighted. And so we were able to name all of the people who are working on this week, or the week that they did this, and give them a little shout out and answer questions. You can see the 41 comments. Probably about 5 of those were our responses back to people asking, well, how are they doing this? And how often do they do it? And are they going to repaint the shuttlecocks? And does the artist know you're doing this? So it's just fun to see the engagement on that. And even though it's content that I've been there 11 years, I've probably posted about the cleaning of the shuttlecocks 5 times, and we still have 34% of the accounts that we reach that were new to us. So if you're asking yourself, should I post this again? Do we do this every Christmas? We do this every Mother's Day? Yes, do it. There's probably somebody new who has not seen it before. So I went through that pretty rapidly, but I am so happy you guys asked me to do this today and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Angela. So really, I think it's a really interesting story, Art and Soul, and resonates so well with Kansas Cityans. Let's see, there we go.
Sorry, I was stopping sharing.
No, you're fine. And we'll go ahead and hear from Natalie Vondrak from the Watkins Museum.
All right. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so today I am going to be talking about a social media series that internally at the Watkins we call Now and Then, but it really reflects kind of like the National Global Throwback Thursday hashtag. So just a little bit about me. I communications and outreach manager at the Watkins Museum. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Kansas in the Museum Studies program. And then I have my bachelor from Iowa State University in history. So I do not have a marketing degree. And as we have all talked about this before, all the presenters have really mentioned this, small nonprofits, specifically museums, people have to wear a lot of hats. And I think I did social media at my previous job, and the person who was here, they left. So there was a gap. And I wore that hat before, so I tried it on again and it fit pretty well, I think. And so today I'm going to really be talking about how I've leaned on the advice of experts and I put that into practice at the museum, really based on our resources and my expertise. So the Now and Then series, it's a post that I do every Thursday. And it shows a past photo in its present day location. So it's creating this augmented reality, but on a dime, because what this is a printed photo that is dry mounted on some foam core. I cut it out and I just I'm out in the community and I'm taking these photos. And so far they've just been really successful. So I'm going to talk about why they are. So this was not my idea. I've actually seen other museums do this a little differently. These are past posts. So 2 people who did social media before me were doing this. So these are 3 of their posts, and they started this back in 2020. And yeah, so when I took over social media, you know, I did a few, but it really wasn't until I attended the KMA conference here in Lawrence in November that I really started to think about this post differently. So I don't know, I would imagine a lot of people went to the KMA who are listening today. And so Seth Spillman, the Chief Marketing Officer for the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City, was a guest speaker, and he talked about Tim. And so right before pandemic, if you don't know, or if you're not familiar with this, right when the pandemic happened, obviously things shut down, and security guards were really the essential people to be in museums. So at this museum, the security guard on staff was Tim. And so the marketing team at this museum thought, how do we tap into this and kind of like really be creative and make this a statement? And so they handed over the social media to Tim and really created this whole new brand that honestly broke the internet. Their followers jumped from, I have it, from on Twitter, 8,000 to 300,000, and they really got this global following. And so Seth's talk really inspired me because he talked about 2 key takeaways that for me was that to be different is to be authentic, and to find your voice, finding this perfect blend between the internet, which is basically the relevance and in trends and culture happening right at the moment, along with the individual, so your personality, along with the institution, which is basically your branding. So how do you find this nice blend of all 3? And I really felt like these now and then photos could do this. And so when coming back after this talk and thinking about, okay, how do we implement this? The now and then photos do a few things, but they bridge the gap between the past and the present, and they demonstrate the value of history. And so few things that we did here about why it's impactful. It's consistent. We do it every Thursday. I've been doing this since November, so about 5 months. So people are expecting this every Thursday. You know, they're kind of gearing up for what's going to be the new photo. And I'll go to the data at the end, but we see trends and people are following this. They're looking forward to this. It's also emotional. There is an emotional response to this because, for instance, the photo you're seeing right now, it's kids playing in a park. I think we could probably all relate to this photo, even though we haven't played in South Park specifically, but you know, we all went sledding, I'm sure, if you grew up in the Midwest, at one point in our lives. So again, there's an emotional response. It's also relevant. So for this photo, you know, you can't tell because there's not snow on the ground, but there was a blizzard right before this photo was taken. And like Kansas weather, it immediately melted the day after. So it's relevant. It's paying attention what's happening in the world right now and how can we tap into that using our collection. Okay, so in January 17th, this post happened. I did not take this photo. This photo was actually reused last year. And then I reused it because it was so impactful the following year. So I thought, let's try it again. And we had a huge response. And this reached about 15,000 people on Facebook for a county museum, history museum, this is huge. We'll take that. That is a huge win for us. On Instagram, this reached about 1,000 people. And of those 1,000, 530 people were non-followers. So we're engaging with people who they don't really even know who or what the museum, the Watkins Museum is or what we're about. So this is great because it's just one, getting our name out, but it's also relevant. People, putting this out on MLK Day is impactful. It's meaningful. It's reminding people that we are paying attention to what's happening in the world at the moment. So this happened the week or 2 weeks after MLK Day, I believe January 27th, or the week after, the next Thursday. So this also was our second highest performing Now and Then photo, because it does a few things, exactly, what I talked about, consistent, emotional, and relevant. So at the time, and Lawrence is still going through this, let's see, where's my notes? So at the time, Lawrence teachers, parents, and students were fighting to keep Lawrence schools open. So there was a Save Our Schools initiative going on in the community. And at first I thought, I found this photo, should I use this? I thought, absolutely, right? We're not really saying close the schools or don't close the schools. We're just saying, public demonstrations about the school systems in Lawrence have been happening over centuries. This photo was taken, 1949. And so it's just reminding people that, so much has changed, but also there hasn't been that much change. We're still talking about the same issues. So this was huge. People shared this on Instagram about 67 times. And then again, so 273 non-followers saw this post. So that's just wonderful. And these two posts, I really set myself up because these were the gold standard. I really hit it big in January and I was like, great, this is gonna work. But you know what? Not all are hits. But even if I get 30 people engaging with this, I think, okay, I've done my job. There's somebody who found relevance in this. They thought this was interesting enough to like it or share it and associate their name to the Watkins Museum. So here's a little statistics. So the left side is obviously from January until now of like how things are doing for the Now and Then post versus just like your regular post. So we are, there's about a 40 to 50% difference in who we're reaching with these Now and Then post versus just a regular post. So the data doesn't lie. We're reaching more people on Thursdays with these posts. And what's really great about this is that people are sharing it. Likes are great, but we want people to share content. And that's how we get more followers. And I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but Facebook has updated. So they took away the likes, but they also took away the tracking of followers. So you could see every day how many followers you would get, which was really helpful for this case. And I would have had a great graph for you because every time we'd post, we would get a spike in followers. For instance, that student parade, we had over 70 new followers in one day with that post. And it was just that we were paying attention and people noticed that. And so it was just wonderful to see that. And that's always the goal when I post on Thursdays with these, is to see, who's paying attention. Okay, so this is a graph on how many people we're reaching. The little arrows at kind of like the tops of the mountains, so those are Thursdays. And so not every Thursday is mentioned, but you can see there is a dramatic spike in the reach with these posts. So again, it's great to see. It's great to have that data backing up why you're doing this, because it's time intensive. It takes research. I have a very interesting job that I'm doing outreach, but I'm also working with the collections very closely. I'm working with my other staff, for instance, our researcher, development. I'm really trying to make this interdisciplinary project and get the insight of other people who, I'm always open for someone to be like, I just saw this news article about what's happening on this day. I'm like, great, I'll do some research and I'll see if we have a photo that I could use. So yes, data's great, likes, shares, wonderful. But also what's more important is what are people saying about this? So I'm going to pull up some comments that kind of just reiterate why this is successful. What a wonderful picture. Love these, so awesome, great. Thanks for sharing this. Remembering the past is so important. Again, reiterates the value of history. This was a playground. This was associated to a playground photo. And it's creating nostalgia and memories. Oh, remember these? Oh, how we love these. Also, the emotional response. I posted the one of the bridge that you just saw a little bit ago. They're talking about, oh, this was so scary. I remember this. So it's generating conversation. Also, people are saying, hey, I know a little bit about this. And they're adding their own photos. They're talking about what they know about it. People are showing their artwork about, hey, I painted that building before that you just posted about. Also, family connections. Again, just more information that they know about. So again, short and sweet. This is impactful because it's consistent. We're showing up every Thursday, producing content. It's emotional. It's creating nostalgia, and it's relevant. It's bridging the gap between the past and the present. So that is my presentation. I really hope to see this series continue on. I really want to do it throughout the whole year. And, but, similar to like Angela was talking about, like, what are the trends? Are people getting sick of these? I'm still going to try to pay attention to that. But yeah, the goal is if I could do this for a full year, that would be wonderful. But also try to work in different campaigns that I could, focus on membership or, artifacts. So, I just think this is a great example of really of like what everyone talked about today, but putting it into practice, and you've seen it today. So, all right. I will stop sharing now. I think, yep. Oh, no. There we go.
Thank you so much, Natalie. That was great. I love those posts. I follow them as well. So I'm one of your statistics.
Yeah, my challenge for everyone today is I haven't published my then and now photo for today, but if you don't follow the Watkins, please do. And I'm curious, email me what your reaction is to the post today or comment, and seeing like the behind the scenes and like the theory behind the post and how you interact with it today.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to open it up for questions from the audience. Does anybody have questions for our speakers? Feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat. We have a small group today. I'm trying to figure out how to get us back to the full screen. I don't know why I can't figure that out.
Well, I'll start because, clearly from everyone's presentation, an element of experimentation is necessary to make social media work. But I've worked in museums for a long time, and I know how impatient we are. And if we don't get a massive popular response to the very first thing we do, we think, oh my goodness, it's a horrible failure. What sort of time frame should we allow to kind of see success, to know whether we're on the right track? Is there a rule of thumb, or do you just kind of have to get a feel for it?
I'll start. That's a great question, Steve. Yeah, there's this sort of like a culture, not just in museums, but in general, like instant results from whatever it is you do. Like you get feedback in real time. But social media, it's like a patience game. Like there's, you can learn things, in real time. There's immediate like reaction to what you do. But in order to like determine if something is working or not, you do need to give it time to like breathe and to live beyond like 24 hours and then do a subsequent post in that same sort of vein, that same sort of content, that same sort of pillar. Quarterly always felt good to me to kind of like give yourself like 3 or 4 months to kind of like try things out, reassess, and make changes if you need to, or something's working great, like we're going to keep doing this. So yeah, so it's a challenge. There's expectations on anything that you do that you're going to see immediate results. And if you don't see the results out of the gate that you want, like you said, it's a failure. No, it takes time, right? It takes time for these things to, it's like, to compare it to the work I did Blue Water, is a lot of media pitching. It takes time to develop those relationships with reporters and to get them to, get hooked on an idea, story idea. So time is a sought after commodity, but that's really what you need for a social media strategy to really show what's working and what's not working.
And I would add, I totally agree. I think that that's, something that, because we live in this environment where people are constantly asking, well, how to do? And I'm like, it just went up. To give it a chance, give it 24 hours, give it a weekend. But sometimes I will take content, Steve, that we put on a social media post, and I'll include it in. I also do our weekly events email. And so I'll toss it in there and see how many clicks it gets. And so that's another really good message. Recycle your content and find out, maybe it wasn't right for social, but it is for email. Or maybe it's something that, it's important information that we need everybody to know, and it needs to be on a sign in the museum as people come in. So there are ways to figure out if people are paying attention. But if it's social media is the major way, then try it again. I will tell you that I watch a lot of other, outside museum influencers, and they're not above repeating their content again and again. If they're trying to sell something, if they're trying to get you to, subscribe to something, they will keep posting something until they get the results they want.
I'd like to ask a question about paid versus unpaid social media. And we saw in Susan's presentation some results of that, people using that differently. And what are y'all's feelings of, I don't really have a specific question, I guess, about this, but I know a lot of institutions try to target specific audiences through that. Do you find that useful at your own institutions or in your own projects, to try to target specific audiences through paid, or is unpaid really a fine way to try to reach people? What are your thoughts on that?
It depends. I've observed a lot of times museums and other institutions will use social media. Sometimes it's just like free advertising, and that often doesn't go well. Those pieces of content often get hidden. They aren't shown more. So it's been my experience to really focus on that free organic social side, that more of that long form story, that more of that fun content. And if you have to promote a program, an event, something that is more salesy, that's when I would bring the paid social into the picture and use those funds to target the audience you want to come to that event, or who might be interested in that product or in that program. So if there is some sort of monetary thing connected to it, I would use paid social, because you can kind of recoup that cost. And it's been a while since I've done, social ads, but I remember them being pretty cost efficient, but that could have changed because that space is always changing.
I would definitely reiterate just exactly what Stephanie said. We usually, all of our social media posts are organic based, except our programs and events, really when we're trying to drive people to the museum specifically. So yeah.
And I think I mentioned that I don't do our paid social. I know that's probably unusual, but we do have someone who is more versed in it than I am. And the one thing that I've noticed is that we actually worked with the Starlight, because when they were doing Van Gogh Alive, we were helping them connect it to Van Gogh's paintings in our museum. And so they did a whole paid social and said, can we do it on your channels too? And we're like, sure, why would we say no to that? But it needed to be something that felt sort of evergreen, because as Stephanie said, it changes. The way that you go in and you put all the parameters in your paid social is constantly, every time I go in and look at it, I'm like, okay, that wasn't there the last time we did this. And so you pick the demographics, but then you also say, here's $50, make it go as far as you can. Well, it depends on how many people are clicking on it. So if only 7 people click on it in a week, then it gets pushed until all your money is used up, depending on the clicks. And so something that you may be saying, I want to make sure people come on a specific date. Well, make sure it cuts off, because otherwise your social is going to continue to show up maybe after your event has happened, and that can really annoy people, and then it turns them off on your organic content too.
That's a great point too. I was going to ask another general question for folks who might be new to social media for their institutions. Is there such a thing as too few posts on social media in terms of, keeping people who will follow, or, the algorithms allowing people to follow too few? And is there something that's too many that will become bothersome, do you feel?
I think the main thing is you just need to be consistent. If you start in January and you're posting about, once every other day, don't go a week and not post again. I mean, it's just, that's part of why we do our calendar, so that we can see the days that are going to be scheduled, and we know, we've got a post about every day, but every once in a while there goes a day, and it does make me feel, I kind of get that, ooh, it feels like our engagement's down, and it was probably because we didn't post yesterday. So you got to kind of live through those ups and downs. But I think the main thing is just be consistent. Just pick how often you're going to do it and stick with it.
I feel like I would get worried if the impact wasn't happening on the other end. For example, like our education posts, they don't get a lot of likes, but they get shared a lot. But we're still seeing plenty of numbers come in. So I try not to stress about like, oh my gosh, it only has 3 likes. But if we're still getting kids in the door, I think that's still pretty successful.
Other questions out there from our audience?
Susan, I was curious, given the research that you did it make you change your marketing mix, or how you figure out how to use the resources that you have?
Well, truthfully, I just finished compiling all the data on that, so I haven't had a chance to implement anything, but I don't know if it will or not, because part of it is just time involvement and doing more social. We go in spurts in our social media, just because we don't have a dedicated staff to do it.
Anything else that our presenters would like to add before we break for the day?
I was going to ask Natalie sort of a technical question. So when you're holding that photograph, are you taking a picture with your phone, or is somebody else there? Because I don't know how you're doing the gymnastics on that.
Yes, so I'm holding it and then I'm using my phone to take it, which it's amazing. iPhones, they just the quality that I've seen from just using my iPhone to take the photo, it's been great.
Well done. Very well done.
Yeah, I'm out there in the elements. There was one day we had a blizzard, and here I am standing in the middle of the street to take this photo. So, but it's been fun.
Well, the precision in lining them up is always really impressive.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Natalie, but what I think was also impressive is knowing a little bit. I mean, I just see the posts, and you're working somewhere else in the building, knowing the level of research that goes into this to take an event and match a historic photo, and kind of find a piece of relevant content that's going to go with that, makes this so much more than just, oh, hey, look at this fun photo. But it's like, hey, look at this fun photo and think about what happened in our community and what we're going through now. And congratulations for putting in all the effort that it takes to do that.
Thank you. And I think it does demonstrate like there is efforts to engage with external audiences and again, what's happening, but it also makes us look back at our collection and think about what do we have, and like what are we missing and what do we need? So yeah, it's kind of a two-pronged situation that I think we're benefiting, because again, that student parade, I spent a few hours looking for that exact date and really looking through newspapers. So a lot of research actually goes into it as well.
I've got a question. We heard from Angela about how she, what they do for members. I'm with the Tonganoxie Historical Museum. I do the social media, and I'm just a volunteer who lives in Lawrence, but I used to live in Tongi. But we struggle with what to give our members because our museum is free. It's pretty small, but what other benefits are people giving members that don't take a lot of resources?
I will say that if we do special events, we try to do those preview days where members have a certain amount of time. We used to do member hours so that people could come for the first hour of the day. Parking, of course, but if you have free parking, parking is big for us because it's $12 if you don't, or if you aren't a member. But
ours is in a field kind of where you park, so it's
I love it. And thank you for being a volunteer for an organization. We love our volunteers, and that is something that, I was going to suggest, if you don't feel like you have time to do your analytics, see if there's a volunteer who wants to do it, because there are a lot of people maybe who are retiring from jobs or who are taking a break from their career, and they could do stuff like that for you and they get a big kick out of it. So you are doing a lot of really fabulous work. But other things that you could do free for volunteers is giving them a pre-sale time. If we're about to release a very exciting summer activity that we do, and we're going to give our members a week before everybody else to let them grab tickets for things. And so it's just making them feel special in some way. And I think that the more than anything else, what we heard is that they wanted to be thanked. And if all you do is send them a thank you and, a special email that goes out just to them that tells them how much they're appreciated and gives them a story about, an impact that they made with a child or a class, or you've given us the opportunity to offer buses to an entire, area so that they can make field trips, or this is somebody's life that we changed because they got a scholarship to attend one of our adult classes, or how we're using interns that are being given a little stipend. So just tell them that they're making an impact.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions? I want to point out that our presenters have all shared their contact information in the chat. If you'd like to save that, if you have questions for them or would like to see their presentations, I'm sure they'd welcome follow-ups. We'll be sending out a survey after this to gauge how this helped you all. We'll be posting the recording of this as well, so you can share out and you can go back and watch it for yourselves. I'll just say another reminder for May 19th, it will be the Heritage League's first in-person spring mixer since 2019. So it'll be great to see folks again. Save the date for that, 5 p.m. at the Johnson County Museum. And look for another professionalization workshop sometime in the fall. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to heritageleaguekc@gmail.com. It's a great year to become a member of the Heritage League. We are redoing our eBlast listserv and our maps and our online maps. And so this is the time to be a member and to get involved. We're always looking for folks who might be interested in serving on the board and our committees and help us arrange things like this. So huge thank you to Susan and Angela, Stephanie and Natalie. And the board for the Heritage League for helping put all this together. I think this was really wonderful to hear what other folks are working on and how social media is working for them, or perhaps not working for them if we look at some of Susan's data. And I think huge themes we saw today: consistency and relevancy, and using your own content or collections to really highlight your institution. So I hope everyone gives social media a shot, try something new, maybe set up some content pillars. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Good to see you.